the breaking news will be bro she breaking news by exclusive. Then say a year 23rd July, Director of Criminal Investigation, a year the CID Department, Ghana Police Service, Police Headquarters, Accra. Then say Richard Jakpa. Yes, Richard Jakpa. I then afale a petition Ghana Police Service CID to investigate former Attorney General Mr. Godfred over the issue of fabrication of evidence in the case of the Republic versus Atoforsi and Jakpa. If you will recall, in this case, there was a leak audio of Mr. Dame, the then Attorney General, criminally asking Mr. Jakpa to falsify evidence to implicate Atoforsi. Officially, my making kind letter no entry. Yenfa credit my loud silence media no eho ene yensaka letter no say petition of Richard A. Jakpa against Godfred Yebo Adame regarding fabrication of evidence to implicate Honorable Dr. Atoforsen and to lie to the courts. Ebusuan, just say ensemono making kind mu kakra say my name is Richard Jakpa, Richard Antoma Jakpa. I was the executive chairman of Jakpa at Business Executive Chairman of Jakpa at Business Limited. I was arraigned before the High Court Financial Division on 18th day of January 2022, together with two others on the charge of having acted in contravention of Section 1792 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 960 Act 29, and I was third accused person in the proceedings before the High Court entitled the Republic versus Kesi Atoforsen and two others. Suit number CR and that's no like wabetimi akinkanya mahum. That just any tintin say Richard Jakpa a petition a CID boss and I say CID department say a year a brebia na or court to send semono. Yera a year Godfred Attorney General a fabricate evidence be etiano intino or petition the CID a year boss say or monshare no measures and seminent abuja made the way no abeto sinko tie den and sema isi ya ema say abeto say Richard Jakpa wa petition the CID say or measures and sim. God bless you.
For an exclusive interruption, Richard Jakpa, who is a businessman. Richard, you're welcome.
Thank you, my brother.
And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Same to me.
So you're always laughing. What really is behind this smile always on your face, even though you are in court?
Oh, well, happiness is your personal responsibility in life. You don't allow people to dictate your mood and how you live your life.
So that explains the reason behind this smile always on your face.
Oh yes, I always try to make the best out of life for myself.
Even though you may end up in prison.
Well, I don't think so because of the evidence that I've adduced in court. I'm very confident that I'll come out victorious based upon the evidence in court.
So you describe yourself as a businessman. What kind of business do you do?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. So to construction, we do construction. I used to do export of coffee beans. Coffee beans. I used to export coffee beans. In fact, that is the first business I started with way back in 97. Immediately I left the military. 2 months after I left the military, then I won a contract from Europe, specifically Croatia, about 540,000 euros, more than €500,000.
To supply coffee beans?
Coffee beans. So I used to buy my coffee beans from Sefifi also, Kobubi Pond, Hohoi, Domahinkro, and then also across the border from Cote d'Ivoire, and then also across the border from Hohoi, areas there. So I had agents all across. So you give them money, they buy, they store them, you move around, your vehicles will cut them to a centralized point, and then you bag them, sort them out, and then you ship them out of the country.
So this is a business you started right after You left the military.
Right after I left the
You
military.
left the military or you were discharged?
Well, I was released. In the military, the term is released.
Does it also mean sacked?
Not at all. In fact, there's different type of releases in the military. We have release dismissed with disgrace or misconduct, unsatisfactory, lack of application of interest. Service also terminated. There are so many types, depending upon the conduct or the reason for which they are releasing you. In fact, there's a whole military administrative law on that. And I think I've sent that to you. There's a table.
In fact, I'm just, because the military matter just came in, I just wanted just to exhaust it. In court, the information or what has been presented suggests that you were dishonorably released from the military.
That is not true. In fact, the military is a well-structured institution, and they are very precise and specific on whatever they put on paper. You hardly get ambiguity in military service writing because it's part of the training to ensure that there's clarity of thought whenever you are writing service papers. So the military cannot release you and put their misconduct or dishonorable without having a reason for that. And they will always quote the military law in releasing you, the clauses upon which they are releasing you. So if you look at the original one that I sent to you, they quoted clause item 2, clause A on the table of article 15.01 of Armed Forces Administration Volume.
Right.
And in that particular clause, it states that for lack of application or interest, service terminated. Now, in the same item 2, you go to clause C, it is stated unsatisfactory conduct. But my official letter for my release, which I've given it to you, they didn't state clause C. They stated clause A under item 2 of the Armed Forces Volume, Administration Law. And that is very clear. So, and once you go to that particular clause, clause A of the item 2, and you are going to the reason, is service terminated.
Right.
And when you terminate somebody's service, it's not out of misconduct, because in the military volume law, there's a column, item 1, which is deals with misconduct. And under misconduct, you have released, dismissed with disgrace, all those things are there. So I didn't even fall under item 1. It was item 2. And under the item 2, you have a lot of them.
Right.
And it was item 2 specific clause 1. So any document that does not talk to item 2, clause 1 of the Armed Forces Volume for my release, is just peddling falsehood.
All right, so hold on there. Let me just run through, and this is part of the evidence presented in court. So this is Ministry of Defense and 13th June 2024. This is very latest. And it says, I write to provide you with official records of Lieutenant Richard Jakpa, GH2899. That's your service number.
Yes.
This is the number you use whilst in service.
That's my number.
And to confirm that Lieutenant...
It's for life.
Yes, and to confirm that Lieutenant Richard Jakpa was indeed released from the Ghana Armed Forces on November 1, 2007 on following grounds. He failed to pass his lieutenant to captain promotion examination, known in military circle as PROMIX, after 7 years. The officer went on absent without official leave in 2004 and was tried by ASA and awarded severe reprimand and forfeiture of 14 days pay, unsatisfactory conduct. And then there's also this other document attached to it. This is 12 September 2007. The above named officer was commissioned into the Armored Corps as a regular officer in August 1998. All things being equal, the officer should have made the rank of captain on 21st August 2002 and a major on 21st August 2007. He has consistently failed his POMAS. And then it comes to paragraph 3 of this document, which says, throughout the service, Lieutenant Jakpa has proved consistently that he belongs to a world incompatible with the decent and gentlemanly composure that the Presidential Commission confers on officers of the Ghana Armed Forces. He is a bad example by all standards, and his continued retention in the service is likely to cause more harm to the service and to himself. Indeed, in May 2004, a special report submitted to him by his commanding officer suggested that the officer had reached his calling. 3 years on, his new commanding officer described his conduct as shameful and regrettable.
So this particular, there are 2 letters you just read.
Right.
One was signed by the current Minister of Defense, if I'm right.
Yeah, this is the first one. And the one I just read is signed by Brigadier General for Chief of Staff. This
you read
MPG
an earlier one.
The earlier one signed by the Dominic Nitu, Member of Parliament, Minister for Defense.
Okay, so let me tackle that one first.
Right.
Then I'll go to the second one in that order. The first one that was written by the Minister of Defense, Dominic Nitu, is completely out of order.
Why do you say so?
I say so because it is not within the purview of the Minister of Defense at MOD to be writing such confidential and assessment of military officers. Not at all. In fact, the MOD is distinct from GHQ. And the GHQ of the Ghana Armed Forces is headed by a Lieutenant General. In fact, Lieutenant General Pompepra. He is the CDS. Currently, Chief of Defense Staff. He is the head of the Armed Forces. And he's headquartered at the General Headquarters of the Ghana Armed Forces. But he has all the 3 arms of the Ghana Armed Forces: the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. The Minister of Defense is a political head of that institution, and he doesn't run the military. The military, the CDS, is backed by military laws. His discretionary powers and everything are backed by military laws. And he operates according to that procedure. Now, this letter that was written by the Minister of Defense, and I say it's out of order because, let's take it for instance, if a letter comes from the Attorney General's department, granted, let's take it hypothetically, that a letter indeed came from the Attorney General's department, or under RTI, from any institution outside the military.
Requesting for information.
Requesting for information. The letter is written, directed to the Minister of Defense. What the Minister of Defense is supposed to do is to attach a covering letter to that request and then write to the Chief of Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, who reports directly to the CDS. The Chief of Staff will then send it to the CDS. The CDS will look at the information that the outside institution is requesting within the military and either okay it or refuse and cite reasons. And if he decides to okay it, he will look at the security classification of those documents that are needed by a civil institution. He has that discretionary power to declassify that information because we have restricted, we have confidential, we have secret, we have top secret. So depending upon what you are requesting, he will either declassify or refuse to grant you that information, looking at the implication to the military. So once he approves of it, his Chief of Staff, and when he approves, he will be very specific on what type of information he's approving.
That's going out.
That is going out. It's not a wholesale business. He will be very, very specific. Then it will then go to his Chief of Staff, who will then write to the military secretary, who is headed by a Brigadier General, in this case, Air Commodore Edu Jemfi. It will go to him. And all these things are done with trail of correspondence, with references, because military keeps records. Now, when the military secretary gets this letter, because it's specific, and it is coming from the Chief of Staff, which means the CDS has authorized, he will get that information from the archives. Mind you, I left the military about 17 years ago. So they have to go and dig through the archives and get that particular information. And once they get it, the military secretary will also attach a covering letter to it back to the Chief of Staff. All this, you have the paper trail. the chief of staff, with the permission from the CDS, after they've perused and they realized that that was what the CDS approved, would then write to the Minister of Defense.
And then?
Then the Minister of Defense will pick what came from the military. Also add a covering letter to the Attorney General's department.
And in this case, this is exactly what happened. I mean, this letter is addressed to the Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
No. You see, if that is what happened, it is strange that the minister, in writing his letter to the Attorney General, will be quoting unsatisfactory conduct.
Perhaps based on what the military wrote about you in 2008, which letter has been attached to this correspondence?
No. That letter that you are talking about, it was a recommendation, not a release letter. And that is the mistake. They've misconstrued that letter and they are roaming around thinking that's my release letter. No. That is supposed to be a recommendation if indeed that letter does exist.
In fact, it's true. The wording here is that I'm therefore directed to request that Lieutenant Jakpa is released from the service for inefficiency under Article 15 of for continued lack of application or interest at the items provided here. But so
you realize that this letter was more or less a recommendation, a request, not approval. So if you throw it out there and say that is, I was released on it, it's either you are ignorant or you are engaging in mischief. The other letter that you'll be reading, which is the official one, that is what matters in the military. And that's what the military command can speak to authoritatively.
And this is the 21st October 2007 letter.
Thank you.
Let me just go through. So this is Release Officer, Lieutenant Richard Jakpa. Again, the service number is provided. Reference Armed Forces Regulation Volume 1, Armed Forces Regulation Volume 3. Lieutenant Jakpa is to be released from the Ghana Armed Forces effective from November 1, 2007. He will be released under 2A of the table. The table is provided, and then the reference is made. His total period of reckonable service will be 11 years, 18 days, of which 9 years, 2 months. He's entitled to service gratuity under Article 206. He will not be placed on retired list. He is not permitted to use a rank in civil life. DFC is to grant him up to 31st October 2007 and ensure all our recoveries are made before final payment of gratuity. And the letter goes on to the officer is requested to submit 6 months passport photograph to the service. Armed Headquarters is requested to forward the officer's clearance certificate duly completed to this office. But you can also discount the fact that the earlier letter before this one came through, and this one signed by MDK Ahiaglo, Brigadier General for the Chief of Army Staff, they made damning conclusion on your character and the fact that you were unfit to continue to serve in the Ghana Armed Forces.
And that's what I find strange, because the military that I know, if you read that particular letter, you will realize that they were talking about consistent fraudulent conduct.
Absolutely.
Good. Owing people and institutions, not an institution, institutions. They never named the people. They never named the institutions. They never stated which type of consistent fraudulent conduct, which means that it's not only one fraudulent conduct. It continues.
But did you contest this?
That's why I'm coming to. This letter, I left 17 years ago. I've never seen this letter in my life.
Until it surfaced in court?
Until it surfaced in court. And I never knew such a letter existed. And if you realize, the letter was written, purportedly written by Brigadier General Ahiaglo. He's deceased. And you know, dead men don't talk. They don't talk. So he's not here to defend himself. But then, the one that can speak best to this letter is the Chief of Army Staff, retired Major General Odote. Because if you look at the letter, it was signed for him as the Chief of Army Staff. He was by then the Chief of Army Staff. And it was directed to the Chief of Staff in a confidential security classification. So I was not to know. The conspiracy, the allegations, it was something they conspired, and they didn't even want me to know about it.
So you're saying that no opportunity whatsoever was afforded you to respond to these matters?
At all, because they knew that these allegations, if it got to my notice, they would be in trouble. Because the military that I know, you cannot even be for the first time, even fraudulent, and still survive, they will charge you, they will court-martial you, you'll be dismissed with disgrace, and even go for prison sentence. They don't countenance those things, let alone for it to become consistent. You understand my point? So you realize that now when you take that letter, in service writing of military letters, you have the introduction, you have the body of the letter, and then you have the recommendation part. Now the recommendation part emanates from the body of the letter, which is the crux of the issue. So if you are talking about consistently fraudulent, all these serious crimes, your recommendation cannot be that he should be released on lack of application or interest. It's contradictory.
Mr. Jakpa, during your service, you are saying that at no point were you confronted with some of these
Not
facts,
at all.
including the fact that you owed an officer $100, you took the military.
That was 300, not 100.
$300, it took the intervention of the military to virtually hold on to your salary before that money was paid. You're saying that this does not happen?
Let me explain to you. You see, they spoke about $300 to the unit PRI. It's an account in the unit. But that account is a CID account. And there's no regulation in the armed forces that permits the unit in Ghana here to be spending dollars and loaning dollars to service personnel. Because we don't spend dollars in the military here. Unless you are on international peacekeeping operation outside the country. But in the unit PRI, it's not operated in dollars. And in any case, for you to give someone dollars, the person would have applied for it, signed, before you give it to the person. And then if you are talking of deducted from my salary, I should have seen it in my pay slip.
And it didn't happen?
Not at all. I should have seen my pay slip money gone down. I mean, not at all. So it's completely strange.
The military, I know, is a very disciplined institution. So it is quite...
It's baffling.
It is quite surprising to me, for example, that an officer... I mean, these words will be written about an officer, and that officer was not given the opportunity to defend himself or to respond to these allegations. And then 17 years on, you are getting to see or hear of these allegations for the very first time. This is very strange, Mr.
It's very strange, my brother, and that is why I'm contesting it, and that is why my lawyers are going to subpoena the military command
to come and explain this letter.
To come and provide evidence to the consistent fraudulent conduct, the institutions that I owe, the people that I owe, the military trial proceedings that took place that conclusively found me guilty for them to write such a thing about me. Would have copied me, would have confronted me, would have given me the natural justice for me to even defend myself.
All right, let's leave it here because you say that your lawyers, they've written to the military high
command. But then to even go on the letter.
So that we can move to other...
Okay, the letter, if you look at the letter very well.
Right.
The letter is from Army Headquarters. Military officers, they have their units. I was under Recce Regiment. And the Recce Regiment is under a Southern Command headed by a Brigadier General. So we'll respond directly to that Southern Command. Then from there to the Army Headquarters. So if you are writing something like this, you should have been quoting references from which this complaint was made from. But you look at the letter, there are no references on that letter at all. So it meant that the Army Headquarters on its own, out of a vacuum, created this story of consistently fraudulent, owing people, institution, because they didn't reference anything. And when you look at the letter again, you see that they've underlined, there's underlining, which means that the Chief of Staff would have read that letter and taken note of those areas. If he does that, he will comment on it. He'll write a minute, he will comment on it. But there's nothing like that. And then if the letter indeed went to the Chief of Staff office from the Army Headquarters, you would have seen receipt stamp of the Chief of Staff office, receipt on it. So this letter that they are throwing around, claiming it to be my release letter, which is not true. It was a recommendation signed by a dead military officer.
But you accept the recommendation, but you are disputing the words they used to describe it.
Yes.
You're also saying that you were not privy to this letter.
Yes, as you can see, it is not my release letter as they are throwing it around. They are very ignorant and mischievous. That is one. Two, the content there, I'm not privy to them. I've not been confronted. I've not been charged on them.
You are also saying that at no point did the military recommend your release from the service?
No, I can't say they didn't recommend. I'm not privy to that. But this particular recommendation,
You are contesting it.
I'm contesting it. And the letter by Newz is even the worst of it all. He quoted unsatisfactory, which falls under item 2, clause C.
Perhaps referencing this letter signed by MGK Ahiaglo.
If he's referencing from this letter, then he has a problem. Because I don't see a Minister of Defense will be sending a letter to an Attorney General to tell the Attorney General this is the reason he was released. The reason I was released is premised on the official release letter, not on the recommendation.
And what reason is stated on that letter?
Which letter?
The official letter you claim that
The official letter is item 2, clause A.
Tell me about it.
And clause A deals with lack of application or interest, service terminated.
Lack of application or interest?
Or interest.
Interest in what? In your continuous service
Yes.
termination?
Yes,
and
because...
lack of application, doesn't that answer these words?
No, you see, when they say lack of application or interest, if you don't have interest, you will not apply yourself in anything anymore. That's why it's a lack of or interest. In 2005, I applied to leave the service because of the consistent persecution by the MPP government at that time and their military, those military guys in the armed forces who were aligned to the government and not doing their professional work, rather. So they were persecuting me, victimizing me so much that I had to prepare myself to leave the service. So I did this private investigation course, which we'll be coming to. Then I took an entrepreneurship course in the Netherlands to go into business. After that, I established my 2 companies, Jakpa Business and Raj Treasure Ventures in 2005. So immediately I established these 2 companies, I applied to leave the military to go and pursue my business. Then the response that came was that my reasons for requesting to resign were not cogent. So they declined my request to leave the service. 2 years down the line, you terminate my service under lack of application of interest. And that is okay because I lost interest.
Because you had already indicated that.
Yes, I lost interest. So for me, when that letter came, I wasn't surprised because I lost interest and I wanted to go and pursue my business. And as soon as I left, 2 months later, I won a contract, more than €500,000 to supply coffee beans. So it tells you I had prepared myself for that. And I wanted to leave.
Let's stay with the business angle to this story. And we'll come to also your cousin, the Supreme Court judge. But this is Richard Jakpa, the third accused in the ongoing ambulance trial. Your comments, questions are welcome via social media handles. We will look into other areas as well. So if you just tune in, we're having a conversation with Richard Jakpa, the third accused in the ambulance trial. This is Joy News and this is The Pulse. So from coffee beans, and then from coffee beans to ambulance,
you see,
or facilitating the importation of ambulance.
No, you see, an entrepreneur is someone who you look at society, you look for the problems in society, and then you come up with solutions for those problems. And when you create that solution, throughout the solution, you'll be able to get a business. And out of it, you'll be able to make profit. So the problems.
So therefore, the genesis of this ambulance was your idea. Is that what you're saying?
Pardon?
The genesis of this ambulance was your idea.
100% my idea.
You pitched it to the minister.
100%.
And the minister bought into it.
The blueprint, everything emanated from me. Because I'm an entrepreneur. We create things. We solve society's problems. We sit down, we think, and we find solutions to problems.
And the late Sherry was the minister then?
No. It started from Honorable Sepayanki. You know, he was the first minister of the late president at
George Sepayanki.
Yes, he was the first minister, 2009. But that was when the first SONA, State of the Nation address by Atta Mills, he spoke about lack of ambulance in the country. And it was serious. And that was one of his priorities. So as soon as I heard it, as an entrepreneur, immediately I put a team together and tasked them to go across the country to find out the state of our ambulance. They went round, they spent some time, and we realized we had about 34 ambulances or so in the country. And that was serious. So we put together a proposal. But I thought that, look, this is a new government. they don't have ready cash to pay upfront. So to make my offer juicier, let me contact my bank, which was Stanbic Bank, discuss with them and see whether they will get on board and let them know the business sense of it, the cash flow that will be coming over 15 to 20 years of the business and to come into their bank. So they will be making money. So I went to my bank. It was headed by Andani.
Alasan Andani, the former MD of SAN.
Yes, yes. So I approached them. They got their corporate department to sit down with me. I explained the business plan to them, the cash flow that will be coming and everything, and indulge them to get involved to finance this project.
And at this time, you were yet to approach the Ministry of Health or the government?
I hadn't approached them yet because I had to put my house in order before sending the proposal to them. Because the technical specification for the ambulance was already done. Now I needed the financial package to be added. So I needed to get myself involved, undertake some financial engineering to get the bank to be interested to get on board. Then when I send the package to the government, here is my proposal. I'm adding a loan facility for you, government. So use it to finance the ambulance. You pay over 3 years. That will reduce burden on your budget because you're a new government. I hope you understand.
Right.
So this was how I orchestrated it. And luckily for me, I was able to convince the bank. They sought permission, approval from their directors in South Africa. It was approved. And then they ring-fenced the 15.8 million euros for this project and gave me the term sheets. They signed it nice. It was signed. So I attached it to the proposal. And then we wrote officially to Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health looked at the technical specification of the ambulance, the term sheets. Their own is the technical specification of the ambulance. But the financial term sheet is not within their domain.
Right.
It's for the Ministry of Finance. So they forwarded the whole documents to Ministry of Finance. And they copied my company, that Dave Health were interested because it wasn't going to be a burden on the budget. It will be 3 years' time to pay, and there's even a moratorium. So it was easy for them. So as soon as they copied my company, then I realized that government was interested. Health was interested. And they only wanted finance advice on the term sheet, which falls under the domain of finance. So as soon as we got that letter, we said, okay, then we are in business. We started scouting out for manufacturers because we had our technical specification. Then a friend of mine introduced our company to a manufacturer in Dubai, which is Big C. So we started informal negotiation on the phone, text messages, just as we do business. So we got to a stage where we felt we were comfortable, and then I organized visa for them to fly down to meet face to face. We concluded the negotiation in 2011. So we signed an agency agreement for the whole of West Africa, excluding Nigeria, because we were going to promote the business to the whole of West Africa. Ambulance, it's not only ambulance.
Business of supplying ambulance.
Ambulance, because they manufacture, and they needed a representative in this region for them to expand to. And they only had one in Nigeria, and they couldn't dominate the West African sub-region. And I was prepared for that. And I had what it took to do that.
So basically, you started as the originator of the idea.
Yes.
And at some points,
we brought
to pay your own explanation, you became an agent.
Yes, that's the whole thing. So the blueprint is me. No, I know in and out of the whole thing. So when they came on board, we now had to cede the project to Big C and became their exclusive agent for the whole of West Africa. And it's not only ambulances, because they are into building of hospital, build, operate, and transfer, BOT. They are into all these projects. So we were to promote everything across West African countries. They will bring their own money, build it, operate it for some years, and transfer to government.
But the agency role that you played,
yes,
from the explanation you are providing, it suggests to me that it was only for Nigeria. As far as Ghana was concerned, this was your idea. You were just looking for a company that could manufacture the ambulance and then ship it down. And then they said they want to expand to West Africa. So when the West Africa came, you became an agent. No. As far as Ghana is concerned, you were just only interested in getting them to manufacture and then ship them down to Ghana, because that was your idea. You didn't need them as an agent to do that at that time.
No. You see, as an entrepreneur, you must think steps into the future. They came on board, they were interested. They saw